A personality starts off as something like a cube. When we're young, we clumsily bump our corners against other people in the form of childish conflicts. Eventually, our sharp edges are worn away to leave something more like a sphere. That's more or less what people are describing when they say someone's softened. Moderate collisions with others help us mature, but when those first impacts are too strong, they can have a different effect. Instead of losing our corners little by little, we splinter in strange, harsh ways, warping into crooked shapes. Once crooked, it's hard to become a sphere. Even as the people around them mellow, their sharpness only grows harsher, and everyone who approaches ends up getting hurt. But even the most warped human beings started off the same shape as everyone else. Sometimes they look back on the past and grieve. Sometimes they wonder if it's not too late to reshape themselves. And because they know that's an empty dream, they grieve once again. Sakaki Yumiko is one of many such sad, distorted objects. The rain, which I'd taken for a passing shower, continued long after the thunder passed away. By the time we leave our cover in the lingering drizzle, the sun's already set. In a change from the usual routine, I hurry down the road home with an arm wrapped around Sakaki, who stumbles along unsteadily at my side.
雨、結局止まなかったわね。
Unfortunately. The rain's very weak by now, but the constant dampness has left her body noticeably chilled. And at the moment, her emotional state is a bit of a concern as well. I lean closely over Sakaki as we walk, sheltering her from the rain as best as I can. That relatively brief journey back to the dorm feels awfully long right now.
ああ、帰ってきた。どうしたの？ずいぶん遅かったじゃん。榊さんどうしたの？何か怪我とかしたとか？
Amani yelps in surprise the instant she lays eyes on us. Was it that much of a shock to see me holding Sakaki by the shoulder? Well, considering the girl's normal personality, I suppose it's only reasonable to jump straight to assuming something's physically wrong with her. We got caught in that downpour, that's all. We sheltered from the rain for a while.
それで雨に濡れちゃったのね。榊さん大丈夫？
ごめんなさい。心配をかけたわね。
Her physical condition aside, Sakaki seems badly drained in spirit. That uncharacteristic weakness from before is still plainly evident in her tone of voice.
体冷えたでしょ？何か温かいものでも飲む？用意するけど。
ありがとう。それじゃあ、お言葉に甘えていただくわ。
了解。幼児は榊さんを部屋まで連れて行って、後で持っていくから。
Appreciate it.
いいわよ、これぐらい。それよりほら、早く。
I'm making a note. Once I'm old and gray, I'm going to write, Amane was like a mother to us all, in my memoirs.
お礼のつもりだったら、吹き込むような表記はマジ勘弁して。
As soon as I got Sakaki to her room, she collapsed into her bed. Normally she would have ejected me to change out of her wet clothes, but she's currently lacking the energy and willpower to bother.
よほど疲れてたのね。もう寝ちゃったわよ、榊さん。
Yeah. The hot orange and honey drink Amani provided seemed to calm Sakaki down. It didn't take long at all for her to nod off. I think she's got a slight fever as well. We were out in the rain and all.
みたいね。ちょっと暑いかな。
Lightly holding her hand to Sakaki's forehead, Amani nods in agreement. Sakaki doesn't seem to be in any real discomfort, but I can tell that she's breathing a little roughly. In any case, thanks for the help, Amane. I'm going to keep an eye on her for a little longer. You can head back to your room. Amane's response seemed oddly hesitant. What's wrong?
ねえ、ユージ。
Yes?
あのさ、分かってるとは思うけど、やっちゃダメだからね。
The hell?
だからさ、二人っきりじゃん？看病してるわけじゃない？ そしたらなんかこうついでにしちゃったら大変だし、その風邪うつっちゃったら大変かなって。
My face falls into my palm. For some reason, I find myself recalling a gag brain graph website Sachi showed me once. Just by entering someone's name, you'd get a brain-shaped pie chart breaking down the composition of their thoughts. I didn't think to try Amane at the time, but I think hers would be divided in half right down the middle. One side would be folksy grandma wisdom. The other, as should probably go without saying, would be branded with the word sex. You think I'm going to start making babies like a rabbit the moment someone leaves me in a cage with a female? Does this scenario play out frequently in that filthy little mind of yours?
だから大事に至らないように釘刺しておこうっていうことよ。わかるでしょ、そういうの。
It's still not entirely clear to me what Amane is so worried about, but I find it extremely unpleasant to have such aspersions cast on my character. Well, it's not a bad idea, come to think of it.
何がよ。
I've heard that a slight fever can actually make for a more enjoyable experience, in some respects.
え？
Alright then, might as well put that to the test. It's not like you can catch a fever intentionally, and I'll admit that I'm curious. I'm sure Sakaki will understand. A little experimentation like this can only enrich your life, right? She might end up thanking me for expanding her horizons. The thought hadn't even occurred to me, but thanks to a tip from my sexually savvy friend Amane, a new world of possibility awaits. Life is always overflowing with chances to explore the wonders of the unknown. I'm deeply impressed by your ability to keep that in mind even at a time like this. Thank you, Amane. Amane? Amane stares back at me with the blank eyes of a broken electronic toy. Smiling brightly, I give her a friendly thump on the shoulder. It was a joke.
当たり前じゃん、コンボケ。
Amane's karate chop lands a critical hit smack in the middle of my weary head. From outside, an owl hoots in mournful commiseration.
じゃあ私そろそろ戻るけどさ、本当にダメだからね。そっとしとかないと。
I said I understand, didn't I? Come on, get lost already.
信用ならね。
Amane backs slowly out of the room, staring at me reproachfully all the way. I was only teasing her a little in retaliation for slandering me, but it seems I've ended up deepening her unfounded suspicions. Probably best to consider the possibility she might try some half-assed wiretapping outside the door. Shaking my head, I return to Sakaki's side. Her breath's coming regularly, a little more quietly than before. She doesn't seem to have noticed the commotion in the slightest. Well, that's definitely for the best. Borrowing the chair from Sakaki's desk, I ease myself down and look over her at close range. Come to think of it, this is the first time I've seen her sleeping. The girl really does have a pretty face. She's constantly forcing it into a scowl, so it's easy not to notice at times. But Sakaki Yumiko is definitely what you'd call a beauty. Right now, that face is relaxed, her eyes shut, her cheeks slightly flushed. Sakaki looks very calm and peaceful at the moment, but much of her life has been an emotional roller coaster of loneliness, hope, and anger. Now that I know the whole story, her usually prickly attitude is all too understandable. Rest easy, alright? I'll protect you. I lightly reach down to put my hand on her forehead, currently covered in a damp towel. The moisture against my palm is slightly warm from the heat of her fever. Early the next morning, I am stretching in preparation for my usual running, when I hear quiet footsteps on the stairs. A familiar look of mild surprise. However, where Sakaki's expression would normally shift into a frown, today it changes into something hesitant and uncertain. What's the matter? Your face is red. Still carrying that fever around?
失礼ね。熱ならもうとうの昔に収まったわよ。収まったわよ。あなたのおかげで。
Good to hear.
昨日は いろいろとありがとう。
I didn't do anything worth being thanked for.
したわよ。護衛の依頼のはずなのに、あんなことを一方的に話したりして。
You asked for my permission before you started talking, and I agreed to listen. There's nothing wrong with that.
そう。
I've noticed that Kaki tends to grow oddly sullen when the topic of my job comes up, but today, she seems downright docile. The girl does look healthy enough. Still, it's entirely possible yesterday's events left some lingering psychological effects. Sakaki.
何かしら。
As long as your request is in place, I'll protect you. Rest assured. That's all. Finishing my leg stretches, I stand up and check the clock. Just about time for me to be heading out. I'm going to be running for a while. Unless you need anything? Alright then. See you this afternoon. Feeling Sakaki's eyes following me from behind, I leave the dorm. I don't have much to offer Sakaki right now. A simple promise is the best I can do. Hopefully, that's enough to provide some reassurance. The past can't be taken back no matter how hard you try. That's a lesson I myself learned all too well. All the more reason she has to value her present. Hopefully, they've just given up, but... Fortunately, the threats approaching Sakaki have gone quiet for the moment. If this pattern continues, it shouldn't be hard for me to keep my promise. And a few days later, in an echo of Sakaki's past, the hopeful present abruptly takes a sharp turn for the worse. You alright, Sakaki? Can you keep running?
大丈夫。
So she says, but it's obvious at a glance that the girl's close to her limit. Harsh gasps for air interrupt the feeble words coming out of her mouth. Damn it. They caught me napping. Seemingly taking my words of regret as their cue, a number of men swiftly surround us. Protecting Sakaki behind my back, I confront a semicircle of attackers. This sort of scene has certainly become common enough over the last month, but this time, our opposition is an entirely different league. Was this what they were aiming for all along? They stopped the car above the riverbank and came down on us suddenly. Up until that point, it was the same as usual. But as my master once told me, relying on precedent is a dangerous game. Always think outside the range of your predictions. A lesson, it seems, I didn't learn nearly well enough. As I readied myself for another simple one-by-one attack, the first 3 men out of the car charged me simultaneously. What? Caught by surprise, I faltered for just a moment. They seized their chance and executed a beautifully coordinated attack. The first two moved to grab my arms and legs, while the trailing man came straight at me to deliver the disabling blow. The fight would have been over in seconds if I had misjudged the attacks from the left and the right, even slightly. Stooping down to avoid their grasping arms, I kicked the first man's ankle and chopped my hand into the second man's liver. Since when did they attack it? I didn't even have time to catch my breath before the third man's fist came down at me from above. Sheer reflex got my elbow up in time to block the punch, but his attacks continued in an unrelenting stream. Damn it. That hurts, asshole! This guy had some impressive back muscles, and he knew how to use them. His tightly clenched fist swung down at my head with the force of 2 massive hammers. A single direct hit would have given me a concussion at the very least, and a knockout seemed a very real possibility. Ha! With a sharp battle cry, I slipped by the hammerman's side and drove my heel into his knee. The hammer stopped in its tracks. As he reflexively reached down for his right leg, I followed up with a second kick, this time to the head. I'd somehow managed to bring down the first wave of attackers, but the dramatic change in their tactics was alarming. I could feel my heart thudding frantically in my chest. If they try that with a bigger team, it's going to get ugly. My instinctive response was to run for it with Sakaki in tow. Unfortunately, our enemies clearly anticipated that. Where they used to have their entire force charged down from the car, this time, they've set up a second team further along the bank to cut off our retreat. can't let them all attack at once, or it's game over. I carefully size up the group of men surrounding us. One thing's immediately clear. There's not going to be the easy way out this time. Listen up, Sakaki.
何？
I'm going for a preemptive strike. Once I open up a gap in the perimeter, make a run for it. I'll keep them off your back.
でもそんなことをしたらあなたが。
There's no time to debate this. Let's go. I break into a sprint, heading for a point where 3 of the 5 men surrounding us can easily move to intercept. As expected, they instantly launch a simultaneous attack, aiming to trap me in a pincer. There we go! I dodge, grasping an arm from the left and right at the very last possible moment, slipping forward to leave 2 of the men charging directly at each other. The pair of dark-suited men jerk to an unsteady halt like a pair of outfielders chasing the same fly ball. Seizing the moment, I grab them by their legs and flip them off their feet. The 2 men hit the ground headfirst with a satisfying pair of thunks. Before I can even confirm they're staying down, their buddies got a sleeper chokehold on me from behind. But I'd seen this coming from the moment he started circling around behind me. I bend back into the hold, then strain my abdominal muscles and swing my body sharply forward. Tossed over my shoulder in a throw you might see in a judo competition, the man flies a good 2 meters forward before landing face first in the dirt. That's 3 taken care of. Now all I need to do is keep the 2 from coming from behind occupied long enough for Sakaki to get clear. Alright, now! Run, Sakaki! Hurry up! Still shooting reluctant glances in my direction, Sakaki begins to run along the riverbank. The other 2 attackers quickly try to slip past me and pursue her. Not happening. As the pair splits apart to either side, I hurl a stone tied to a heavy string toward the feet of the faster runner. Tripped up by the cord, the man turns a somersault in the air and lands awkwardly on the ground, one arm crunching loudly underneath him. Even as I'm confirming that he's down, I've begun to grapple with his partner. The moment we come to grips, it's clear to me that I left the most troublesome one of the bunch for last. His physique didn't particularly stand out in this group, but he's got dense muscles and an excellently balanced body. This is exactly his sort of fight. I was hoping to take him down smoothly and catch up with Sakaki, but guess it's not happening. I can only pray Sakaki manages to get out of here on her own. Silent except for his intermittent breathing, the man moves his body back and forth in a variety of ways, probing for a gap in my defenses. It's a far cry from the frantic wriggling of an amateur. Every movement has meaning. I can't let my guard down for even a moment. Please get out of here. Keeping half an eye on Sakaki, I desperately hold him in check. And just as she's finally reaching the foot of the slope, distracted by the fight behind her, Sakaki stumbles over a heavy patch of undergrowth and falls to the ground. Sakaki! For a split second, her scream distracts me. Dizzyingly intense pain shoots through my left arm. He got me. I can feel the skin of my arm rapidly growing hot, as if suddenly plunged into a tub of boiling water. A small glinting silver knife sticks straight out of my forearm, like some absurd work of modern art. My grip on the man weakens against my will. In an instant, he's broken free of the grapple. The corners of his mouth curl up in something vaguely resembling a smile as he turns his attention toward Sakaki. Sakaki scrabbles frantically across the ground, her face distorted with terror. As if savoring the moment, the man begins to lope toward her at a relaxing pace. His first moment of carelessness. I won't let you. With one sharp yank, I tear the knife out of my arm, then hurl it at the man's ankle. The man collapses onto the ground and reaches down for his wounded leg. Before he can get his hands around the knife, I straddle him and smash a fist into his solar plexus. Gastric juices sprang from his mouth. The man loses consciousness. I can feel blood flowing rapidly out of my body. Abruptly released from the tension of the fight, exhausted and bleeding, I look up to find the world swaying before my eyes. Sakaki rises to her feet and runs over. Staring wide-eyed at the blood streaming down my arm, she presses her hands to her mouth, speechless with horror. Fine. You need to get out of here, Sakaki. Hurry.
こんなあなた
It'll be all right once I stop the bleeding. Get moving. There might be more where those guys came from. Completely ignoring my repeated instructions to run, Sakaki reaches into her breast pocket, takes out a handkerchief, and holds it to my wound. The pure white piece of cloth is quickly dyed bright red.
こんなに血が
Her anguished expression distorts still further. I've heard people say women are a little less queasy around blood because of their regular menstrual cycle, but I doubt that makes an injury like this any less surreal and terrifying.
どこを止血すればいいの？私も詳しくないから教えて。
I'm telling you, it's fine. Right now, you need to...
あなた一人残せるわけがないでしょ。早く！
Sakaki's face is filled with uncharacteristically raw and obvious emotion. But then again, lately I've seen quite a few human expressions starting to leak out from behind that indifferent front of hers. In any case, there's no point letting the circular argument drag on forever. We're just wasting time at this point. Fine. Tie it tightly just under the elbow. Sorry about the handkerchief, but keep it over the wound itself for now. There should be bandages in my bag. Can you wrap one over the entire area?
分かったわ。
Appreciate it. With my guidance, Sakaki performs some rudimentary first aid. Soon I'm back on my feet. The blood loss has left me more than a little lightheaded, but we nonetheless hurry along the road home as quickly as possible. After all, there's no telling what else those people might have planned. The old rules clearly no longer apply. Sakaki hasn't spoken a word, most likely out of concern for me. It's painfully obvious that she's worried, but that only makes this feel even worse. Pathetic. What kind of a bodyguard makes the client worry about them? For the moment, I've got to get us back to safe ground and plan some immediate countermeasures. Their tactics have changed on a fundamental level. We can't get away with the usual routine anymore. Across from the red glow of the setting sun, a flock of black rain clouds push threateningly into the sky as if to reinforce the looming threat. Looks like it's going to be another rainy night.
そうか。傷は負わせることに成功したんだな。次は確実に仕留めろ。ああ、やむを得ん状況ならば殺しても構わん。由美子が暴れるようなら無理にでも車に押し込めて連れてこい。いいな。邪魔はさせん。私は私のやりたいようにやるのだ。私の言うことを聞け、由美子。
おかえ、ちょっと
Understandably, it doesn't take long for Amane to notice that something is wrong. Practically the moment we're inside the dorm, her shocked voice attracts the attention of everyone lounging around in the lobby. As they run up, the blood seems to drain from their faces.
これどうしたのよさ、お兄ちゃん。
包帯が真っ赤です。血で。
何？事故とか？それとも何かあったの？ねえ。
The lazy summer evening quickly gives way to a borderline panic.
とりあえず病院へ連絡した方がいい？それとも連れて行こうか？
No. There are some complicated circumstances, so I prefer not to make too much of a scene. A little treatment here should be enough. Sachi.
はい。
Sorry, but can you help me out?
はい、わかりました。今すぐ。
私も手伝うわ。お湯とか沸かせばいいんだっけ？
みちる様、お子さんを産むわけではありません。でも清潔なタオルとかそういうのは必要です。
オッケー。
Sachi and Michiru noisily dash back to their respective rooms. Guess I'll head to my room for the moment. Sakaki, would you help me over there?
ええ、もちろんよ。
Appreciate it.
部屋に行って詳しい話を聞くしかなさそうね。
妙な匂いがプンプンなのよさ。
A few minutes after Sakaki helped me into bed, Sachi treats my wound with the skill of an experienced nurse. It's no worse than what I would have gotten at the hospital. Our maid's fearsome capabilities in this field are worthy of further examination. But for the moment, explaining the situation to the uneasy classmates gathered around me has to come first.
なんかとんでもない話になってきたわね。
Amane responds to my brief summary with those words and a worried sigh. Everyone had some idea that Sakaki had been coming under attack, but a knife coming into play seems to have left them more than a little disturbed.
ユミちゃんに何もなかったのは幸いだったのよさ。
さすがは風見さんです。とはいえ傷は心配ですが。
You don't need to worry about me. Their change in strategy just caught me by surprise today. I won't slip up like that next time.
そうなの？ユミコもユージも大丈夫って思っていいのよね。
Yeah, of course. It's a lie. An attempt to reassure them. Nothing more. The ex-military man who knifed me today was a seriously tough opponent, and the others were no slouches either. Even under ideal circumstances, it would have been a tough fight. My failure this time is only going to encourage them to double down on their tough tactics. And while they can bring in fresh bodies, my cuts and bruises are going to start to slow me down eventually. I need to start devising countermeasures sooner rather than later. Sakaki's been very quiet for a while now. Her face is distinctly downcast. It's not like she's the one who stabbed me, but since she's been known to try on occasion, it's probably better not to joke about that. Sorry, but I'm feeling a little tired. Think you could let me sleep for a while?
そっか、了解。じゃあ私らは退散するわね。
Even Amane doesn't seem eager to throw the usual banter around. Understandable under the circumstances. Sakaki, I'm sure today was a little nerve-wracking for you. Being alone might be frightening now. So why don't you sleep over in someone else's room? Sorry, Sachi, but would you mind?
はい、わかりました。榊さん、行きましょう。
わかったわ。
Let me know immediately if you notice anything suspicious. They haven't tried anything on school grounds so far, but there's no telling what comes next.
はい、了解です。
Sakaki barely said a word right up until the moment Sachi hustled her out of the room. That weighs on my mind a little, but even as I try to think it over, I feel myself sinking slowly into unconsciousness. As I sleep, I dream of Sakaki. I see her as a young girl, standing very still in absolute darkness, sobbing endlessly. When I approach, her appearance changes to the young woman I know, but the tears don't stop flowing down her face. No matter what I say to her, Sakaki stands oblivious in the darkness, crying bitter tears. Sakaki. The moment I wake up, I notice an odd sensation enveloping my left hand. The darkened room is silent, but I sense someone's presence nearby. It almost feels like a continuation of the dream, but when I move my eyes to the side, the truth becomes clear. Sakaki. I'm sure Sachi ushered her out of the room. She should be sleeping by now. Instead, she's sitting at my side.
ごめんなさい。起こしてしまったかしら。
It's all right. I got some sleep. Have you been sitting here all this time? She answers with a quiet nod.
どうしても心配だったから。小峰さんの部屋に着いてすぐ戻ってきてしまったの。
Ah.
で、ずっと握っててごめんなさい。
The strange warmth surrounding my left wrist was coming from Sakaki's hands. I don't really mind.
そう。
Sakaki's downturned eyes briefly steal a glance at my face. They're a little bloodshot, and I can see a hint of red in her cheeks. Seems that dream just now might have been accurate in a way.
本当に 本当にごめんなさい。
Stroking my hand a little, she speaks in a sincerely apologetic tone. Nothing to worry yourself over. When you're on guard duty, that sort of thing's always a possibility. Let's just be thankful no one ended up in the hospital.
でも
From a look on her face, I can tell Sakaki isn't remotely convinced by this line of argument. Look, it's nothing you need to feel guilty about. I accepted your request, so I'll put my body on the line when necessary. Even if I get a little banged up, as long as you're safe, that's a success.
成功なわけないでしょ。何を言ってるの。
All of a sudden, her quiet voice grows rough and quavery.
何を言ってるのよ。本当にこんな怪我して成功なんて。
Seems I chose my words somewhat poorly. Sakaki's reached the end of her endurance. Tears, clearly not the first she shed tonight, fall onto my bandaged hand. Sakaki.
ごめんなさい。私この間からあなたに情けない姿ばかりを。
The quiet crying begins to grow in intensity. Grasping my palm tightly, Sakaki heaves with sighs like a frightened child, teardrops raining from her face. Her voice echoes loudly inside the otherwise hushed room. From outside the window, I can hear the faint sound of water cutting through the air. Come to think of it, the forecast today called for rain a little after midnight. It's exactly the sort of dark, ugly rain Sakaki hates so much.
怖いのよ。怖くて仕方ないの。
After a few minutes of wordless crying, those words slip out of her mouth. Of what?
私のために周囲の人がこんな目に遭うのが本当に怖くて嫌で仕方ないのよ。このままだと風見くんも寮の子たちだって私のせいで嫌な目に遭わせてしまうかもしれない。
Sakaki squeezes down tighter and tighter. A tear lands on top of her rigid, trembling hands. Then another.
もうあんなことが本当に。
Losing her mother, betrayed by her father, denied even the chance to make friends. She was pushed inside a mock school, built as a gilded cage. On an emotional level, it's not surprising that Sakaki finds this latest breakdown deeply painful. But that's also exactly why I want to do something for her. The job isn't easy under these circumstances, but if I can give her some peace of mind, I honestly don't mind taking a few wounds like this. Looking up at Sakaki's miserable face, I find myself regretting I didn't manage to pass it off as a lighter injury.
あなたを風見くんをこれ以上苦しめるわけにはいかない。
Don't worry about me. I can still do my job, even if...
分かってよ。私あなたのことを本当に心配しているのよ。
Her voice is desperate, hoarse from the tears. I can't remember the last time I felt such powerful hatred for my own incompetence. Complete silence settles over the room. Sakaki's eyes don't leave mine. With a sorrowful expression on her face, she opens her mouth and speaks sorrowful words.
あなたを解雇します。
What was that? For a moment, I wonder if I've misheard. But she doesn't hesitate to confirm my fears.
依頼だからなのよね。私を守ってくれるのは。だからあなたを解雇します。
What are you saying? You saw those people today. Without me around, next time they'll definitely...
構わないわ。それであなたや寮のみんなが無事なら。
To be certain, although they attacked me today, their target is Sakaki alone. If I leave her side, the main threat disappears. those dangerous goons will probably decrease in number, maybe even disappear altogether. But of course, that's simply because they'll be able to accomplish their objective even without the muscle. I swore I'd protect Sakaki. After making a promise like that, I can't accept a request to abandon her. Sorry, but you're still in danger. I'm not willing to shrug my shoulders and walk away. I refuse to resign.
ダメよ。強制的にでも破棄するわ。
Do you know what you're saying here? These people aren't playing around anymore. You're going to...
分かってちょうだい。
Listen to me, Sakaki.
分かって。お願いだから。お願いだから。分かってよ。
Sakaki's expression tells the story. This isn't something she just said on the spur of the moment. It was a painful decision, after long thought. The tracks her tears have left on her face, the tightly clenched hands, that anguished inner debate has left its marks on her. But just because I understand the depth of her resolve, doesn't mean I can accept this. It's painfully frustrating to know my sloppiness drove her to such an agonizing decision. All right. I accept your dismissal. Sakaki isn't going to budge no matter what I say. For the moment, there's no other way to give her relief. The instant I speak those words, the tension drains out of her hands.
ごめんなさい。私。
It's as if a heavy weight has fallen from her shoulders, as if she's lost something precious. A hollow excuse for a smile on her face, Sakaki continues to apologize to me. Don't apologize. You're not in the wrong. The sound of the rain outside gradually grows louder. A harsh pattering fills the dark room, cut off even from the light of the moon. As of this day, my employment with Sakaki Yumiko came to an end in the form of a dismissal. Things are no better than they were at the beginning. No one's been saved. It's the emptiest of all possible conclusions. Hey everyone, J Square John Jeremy here. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to click on subscribe and the bell icon to ensure you're kept up to date on the channel. Until next time, so long and take care.